This video is about chemical equilibrium. A lot of it is going to be new to you. However, for some of you, you've seen it before. So for the most part, the reactions that we've seen up to this point are what we consider go to completion reactions. So they start with reactants, create products until one of the reactants runs out, and then the reaction just stops. However, there are a lot of reactions that are reversible. Basically, what that means is once you have some products formed, they could start colliding and create the reactants that you started with. So you have the reaction going in both ways. And so you see we represent a reversible reaction using a double-headed arrow. And so you could take hydrogen and oxygen, create water, or you could take water, separate it into hydrogen and oxygen gas. Some reactions are easier than others. Something with a low delta H is going to be easier to reverse than something with a high delta H. Something that is comprised of gases is going to be easier to reverse than something where you have a lot of solids involved. So it really depends on a lot of factors whether or not a reaction is going to be reversible. So in stoichiometry, we talk about theoretical yields. And, we've focused mostly on errors. What could we have done wrong to not get the theoretical yield that we should have? There is a portion of reactions that have a less than 100% yield simply because the reaction can be reversible. So it doesn't go to completion, it establishes equilibrium. It goes in both directions, and so you don't have 100% of the products generated. You may only have 70% of the products generated, and the reaction is done because that's where the equilibrium lies. So equilibrium is really a look at the extent of a chemical reaction. How far along the process is it complete? Is it 100% complete, which would be a go to completion reaction, or does it establish equilibrium, which means it maybe only goes 30% or 50% or 70%. Each reaction is different. So let's take a look at this idea of equilibrium a little more closely. So in this scenario, let's consider colorless frozen N2O4. It is a gas at room temperature, but in order for us to see everything, let's consider it a solid at this point. So we've got it very cold, frozen. It is colorless. If we let it warm up, it's going to sublime. And it's going to start to decompose. Upon warming up, it's going to immediately decompose into NO2, which is brown. And so as you see this reaction happening, you start to see the chamber go from colorless to brown. At some time, however, that color is going to stop getting darker brown. So you're not going to generate a complete 100% conversion of NO2. You wind up with a mixture of both the reactant N2O4 and the product NO2. So consider what happens in order to get this constant color. So as the substance warms, it begins to decompose. So here's the reaction that's going to take place. But as soon as enough NO2 form, what happens is the reverse reaction. The NO2 starts colliding, and you wind up forming the N2O4 that you started with. At equilibrium, you have just as much N2O4 reacting to form NO2. So this reaction is happening just as fast as the reverse reaction is, as this reaction is. So the rates of the forward and the reverse reaction are equal. It's happening just as fast in one direction as it is in the other. What is not equal, however, might be the quantities of the N2O4 and the NO2. Just because you have 1 mole of this doesn't mean you have to have 1 mole of that. The double arrow notice implies that excuse me, the process is dynamic. It establishes equilibrium. It goes both ways. So as any reaction progresses, A to B, backwards to B to A. The concentration of A, the reactant, is going to decrease until you get a constant. The amount of B is going to increase from 0, because we're assuming we didn't start with any, until you get a constant value. When A and B are at constants, equilibrium has been achieved. The only way to have concentrations be constant is to have just as much A decomposing into B as you have B creating A. In other words, the rates of the forward and the reverse reaction have to be equal, but the concentrations are constant. And that is the big idea for equilibrium. The rates of the forward and the reverse reaction have to be equal. The speed at which A is being converted to B, or reactants are being converted to products, is the same as the rate of the products being converted back to the reactants. What isn't equal, but what is constant, are your concentrations. Because those two rates are the same, you lose simultaneously just as much of a reactant as you gain it back from the reverse reaction. So to express this mathematically, we use something called an equilibrium constant. And as it turns out, no matter what the starting composition of reactants and products are, they are going to establish the same ratio of concentrations when equilibrium is established. So for a general reaction like A plus B yields E plus F, the lowercase letters represent coefficients. The uppercase letters represent the substances themselves. We can create what's referred to as an equilibrium expression. And that is what you see here. So KEQ is a constant. It is a number that is not changing for the components at a particular temperature. KEQ is dependent upon temperature. It will change if you change the temperature of the reaction. But notice what you have here. You have products on top, reactants on bottom. The brackets mean concentration. So you have the concentration of the products, concentration of reactants, and you're raising those concentrations to whatever the coefficient from the balanced equation is. So that's an equilibrium expression. So if I increase the amount of E, what's going to happen to establish equilibrium is these numbers are going to adjust themselves so that mathematically they wind up equaling the same value in the end. So again, KEQ is an equilibrium constant. It's going to change from reaction to reaction, so depending upon what the components are, and it's also going to change with temperature. But once you have a particular reaction, that value is going to be the same no matter how much of A and B and E and F you start with, because those concentrations will adjust themselves to mathematically always give you that relationship. So there's two ways of expressing equilibrium constants. One is with Kc, that's what you learned first year if you learned it, the equilibrium concentration. And that's obviously based on molarities of reactants and products. Typically, we're going to omit the units of equilibrium, of the equilibrium constant, but they are going to be some expression of concentration, because if you think back, it's all concentrations squared or cubed or whatever those coefficients are. Okay, note that the equilibrium constant expression has, once again, to review, products multiplied, divided by reactants multiplied, and their concentrations are raised to the power of their coefficient in the balanced equation. Okay, timing wasn't good on that slide. So let's do practice one. Write the equilibrium expression for the following reaction. So what do you come up with? Take a moment and give it a shot. Put this on pause if you need to. Expression that you should get is NH3 in the numerator because it is the product. You're squaring its concentration. N2 and H2 in the denominator. You're multiplying them together. They are the reactants, so they're going in the denominator. And you're cubing the hydrogen because it's got a coefficient of 3 in front of it. All right, the other thing that we can take a look at in terms of equilibrium constants is the constant in terms of pressure. So if you have all gases involved, you can write an expression for Kp as opposed for Kc. And that just means that instead of using concentration, you're using partial pressures of the materials. So the partial pressure of E, so I still have the products on top, the reactants on bottom. I'm still raising them to the power of their coefficient. All I'm doing instead of using concentration is I'm using partial pressures. So the relationship between those two can be seen in this equation. So this is one equation that you're going to need to be able to use. Pretty basic. You've got R in terms of 0.082 liter atmospheres per kmol. Temperature obviously has to be in Kelvin. The change in moles is always going to be the moles of gaseous products minus the moles of gaseous reactants. So we're only talking about gases here in order to get to the Kp, because only gases have partial pressures. So products minus reactants in order to get your delta N here. Last thing I want to do in this portion of the video is take a look at just the magnitude of the equilibrium constant. So remember that it's a ratio of reactants to products. So a larger K must mean that you favor the numerator, so you have more products. Conversely, a smaller K means that you have a bigger denominator, so that means you're going to favor the reactants. If K is really, really much larger than 1, that means the products are dominating the equilibrium. It lies to the right. It lies to the product side. That means it is closer to being 100% complete than not. Conversely, if K is much smaller than 1, that means the reactants dominate. That means your extent of completion would be, 10% or 20%, where very little of the reactants have actually been converted to products. The reactants, for whatever reason, are the preferred state. And so because you have reactants divided by products, we can approach equilibrium from either direction. So going back to that first reaction that we took a look at, I took N2O4 and decomposed it into NO2. However, I could have started with NO2 and have that combined to give me N2O4. So the equilibrium constant is relative to how you write the equilibrium reaction. So in this case, the equilibrium constant is going to be NO2 in the numerator, N2O4 in the denominator. That has a value of 0.212. However, with this reaction, N2O4 is going to be in the numerator, NO2 is going to be in the denominator. I wind up with the inverse. So the equilibrium constant can be written inverted if you're talking about the opposite kind of reaction. So again, it's relative to how you write the reactants and products. Whatever's in the product side is going to be in the numerator. Whatever on the reactant side is going to be in the denominator. And mathematically, the equilibrium constant is going to represent that appropriately. So in this case, 0.212, that's less than 1, equilibrium lies to the reactants. It's less than 50% done. However, in this, you've got 4.72. It's greater than 1. So but once again, equilibrium lies with the products, which is still N2O4. So products are favored here, reactants are favored here, but it's the same substance that's being favored because we've written the equation two different ways. Okay, we are going to pause here and end this video, and we'll pick up in the next part.